Here we're starting on part 2 of this Alberta Continental Divide trip, and find myself being pretty excited about this one. It's a bit of a weird place to be when you get to watch this footage over and over again as you're cutting these. Honestly, I probably get 10-15 hours of footage out of most of these trips and end up cutting it down to about 10 minutes, but every now and then you have a video where I'm sure my memories are a little more vivid than this video will ever be able to portray, but in all honesty, this one, you can go in 2-minute blocks in this, and there's going to be some really interesting variety here. It's done out of sequence, so my memory is going to be kind of bouncing all over the place, but it's well worth sticking around for this one for the length. Now, I toyed with the idea because of how the algorithm works and how people seem to get drawn into these videos, changing the title of this one from the Continental Divide or Alberta Continental Divide to simply Why I Dual Sport. This view here is pretty indicative of why I do this. All of this is new terrain, new areas for myself and Jarrett that were along for this trip. And you're going to see a huge variety coming up here. We're going to have some rivers, some mountainside that looks kind of like parts of Ireland. Good mountain trails like we had in the last video, Rockies. But this really is why I do this. This is relaxing to me. It's cathartic, and looking forward to explaining little stories here along the way. The first section that we see here, cruising along the river with those beautiful mountains on the side, I believe that's Prospect Mountain will be the big one, more to the left from where we're looking right now. But this is Whitehorse Wildland Provincial Park. It's close to the Coal Branch Public Land Use Zone, south, almost directly south of Cadomin area, which is a little mining town. We'll come to that later, but this road is the Grave Flats Road, and it's been washed out for a few years here. You can see on the left, the river kind of rises and drops. Jared, that's with me, he's a kayaker as well, but he's able to read the flow maps on these and tell whether the water will be too high to pass, or that we would have had to go up in the mountains, or at least he would have had we thought about doing that before we came. But as it'll come up later in this video, we did not, and we got a little bit lucky, so we got to pass through where some others might not have been able to earlier in the year. Now, for those of you that know me, you'll know that I'm a little bit of a serial over-preparer. I don't like being caught out in a surprise, although I'd like to consider myself fairly adaptable when I do, but usually because I feel like I've done everything that I can and then just roll the dice with how it goes. But the water's a good example of things that I'd never really thought about. I do a lot of water crossings. I'm fine up to 18-20 inches on most of my bikes, and honestly we do it quite frequently, but I'd never really thought about how quickly the water can come back and get you blocked off from areas that you get into but then suddenly can't get out of, and that just seems all the worse when you're camping as well. Now, as we come up to this pass here in the Whitehorse Wildland Provincial Park, this is honestly one of my favorite places that I've seen in Alberta so far. It's hard to describe, and we kind of got here at golden hour, so it's beautiful in its own right, but we're also at the end of a long day, or near the end of a long day. It turned out to be a lot longer than we had intended. But I believe that in the background there is Mount Bryant. There's also Blackface Mountain and Leyland Mountain that we see here as the ridge, but beautiful area. We're coming down from the pass here back towards Cadomin. Now, this next section of the video, we're transitioning back down towards the Nordegg area. We're going northbound off of Chunga Road, and we ended up taking a road kind of into the mountains called Wapiabi Road. Looks a little bit more like the terrain south of Nordegg, but you'll see here in a second, it's got a really interesting mountain range to look at here as we get closer and closer. There seems to be a lot of off-grid camping here and a lot of equestrian, but being that we're on a dual sport, we get access just like anybody else. We didn't camp in this specific zone, but man, would it ever be beautiful to stay here for a couple of days and explore a couple of the trails. We did try to do a couple of pass roads that were supposed to take us up to the edge of the Jasper Park. You're not allowed to ride in Jasper, and to the best of my ability, I try to make sure that we're following all the rules with camping and off-road riding. We want to make sure that we're protecting that and not causing issues for people. But all of the roads that we tried to get into were pretty soaked. I cut that part of the video because really it's just moving along at half a mile an hour and covered in dirt and mud. It wasn't super pleasant, but did make the day a lot longer. We did take Jungle Road off of Highway 40. We were crossing over. We were trying to do this overlanding route that took us to the end of Chunga Road and then would have connected with the Cardinal River Road that connects with the Great Flats Road where we just were in the video. Chunga Road that we're traveling on here, it's beautiful. It has quite a lot of vertical change as well as just kind of winding through it. I believe it's just forestry access. I can't think of another reason that it's there. There's not really a lot of provincial park lands in there, maybe a little bit of pipeline here and there that you can see crisscrossing. But it did take us to an interesting end. It's quite a long road, maybe 100, 150 kilometers, I think, by the time we get to the end of it. But on the map, it had a lot of squiggles and a lot of elevation change. So we decided we'd take a go at it, and I'd seen an overlanding map from Alberta Overlanders where you could cross the Brazeau River and reconnect with the Cardinal River Road, which would have taken us down to the Great Flats Road where we were at for the Whitehorse Park. Now, we're going to turn into the bush here, and I think that it must have been probably somewhere between 3 and 6 kilometers to the river, and then we were going to fjord the river if it was available, and we're going to circle back to what I said earlier about the water levels. Now, I have to lay a little bit of blame at the overlanding people's video. They had obviously been here a long time before we were. None of this tree fall was there. I have a hard time believing it was only this year. The road looks like it hadn't been used in a while, but we decided we'd push in. Thankfully, we can read topographical maps reasonably well, so we knew that it would drop down into the valley, and getting through this in a downhill is a lot easier than getting in an uphill, although we ended up finding out exactly what it felt like to go uphill as well, because as you'll see in a minute here, the flow of the river was quite fast and quite deep. I don't think you could have gotten through here with anything less than a submarine, and even then probably a lot of ropes involved. But it's still well worth the scenery. I love poking around. It's one of the huge advantages of being on the little dual sports is these areas are quite accessible now. It's a little bit tougher with the luggage on the back to be pushing through bush and going over logs and things. We did have a little bit of stuff we had to move out of the way, but beautiful river. And it'd be nice to come back here when the flow is down a little bit and see if we could connect the two roads. Although as we go up the Cardinal River Road coming up here, we get within about a kilometer of where we were. So really there's not much land left there, but it's a beautiful enough area that I would go back just to say that I've completed it. Now this next section just kind of blows my mind. I was aware there's some trails up in this area, particularly the Ruby Falls that I've been looking to do for the last few years, but I'd never ridden in Cadomin, so I was kind of coming in here blind as to what this is. Now Wikipedia says that Stats Canada recognizes Cadomin as a designated place, which I don't know how you could get any weirder of a designation than that. It's historically a coal mine area. This is Coal Branch, public land use zone. The mine, I believe, has been closed for a while. But the reclamation of the area, you can see the hillsides, or a lot of the hillsides anyway, and some of the road development. It's obviously been established for a while, the height of the trees as well as the regrowth of the grass and the surrounding area. I'm not sure why they're putting all these bridges and stuff in. From the information that I can find, Cadomin's kind of growing as a tourist area. I believe there's a lot of hiking trails and so on going through here. I know there are a couple of riding zones or PLUZs for Alberta that really we need to get some maps for, get somebody connected locally that can give us some tour in it, because this area is so beautiful. It actually reminds me of sections of the Yukon up in the Tombstone Mountains north of Dawson City at the south end of the Dempster. But I can honestly say that it was completely unexpected. It's weird to have this huge mining style road going in and out, but nothing there. The town itself looks like there's maybe a couple hundred people at tops. Obviously business going on because there's lots of heavy equipment laying out, but it's neat. It's hard to tell how much of it's natural and how much of it's reclamation, but I just found myself rubbernecking around a little bit. This section here is kind of what I was saying with the regrowth. You can see the soil. It looks kind of like sections of Ireland or Scotland, maybe Northern England. With the grasslands, and again, we're golden hour here, just stunning at this time of day. Really easy to just kind of drift off and just take it in. I don't know whether it's natural or not, quite honestly. I think it's beautiful either way. It may be polluted as anybody's business, but I have no idea, and I just enjoyed it, man. This trip was relaxing on relaxing, so I'm looking forward to getting back into this area next year.